Now we're going to continue looking at our Wavetable Editor. Now last up we looked at importing WAV files and also what we can do with our menu items here. But now we're going to have a look at our tools up here. Now the first tool and the default tool is going to be this pen tool, which allows us to draw in waveforms directly in this editor. So we can literally just kind of freehand draw something in. So we can quite easily make some very interesting kind of tonal waveforms just by trial and error drawing things in. We then have a line tool. This allows us to draw straight lines essentially, like so. So whenever we click and then let go, we create a straight line. Now the next one is the segment tool, and this can be used to draw several contiguous lines or curves. So as we click 2 points, like so, it creates a line between them. We can then curve those lines by clicking and dragging on them. So again, we can create some very interesting shapes that way. And finally, we have this sign tool. Now this is quite interesting. This allows us to essentially use June 3 as an additive synth. Now let me just clear out this waveform so we have nothing in here. And with the sign tool, we can actually draw in sine waves. We can create some quite kind of organy sounds, because this is the way an organ works. We can also change the phase of these different harmonics. Now we can zoom here and move through like so. That's moving through. And to zoom, we can basically use these two zoom buttons here. And we can actually draw in lots of these harmonics at the same time. To again create some interesting waveforms. So that is kind of an additive functionality essentially. So we could go through and actually draw in what are called partials or harmonics to create interesting sounds. Now something I should say up here is that we do have undo and redo buttons here, which is really useful. Now once we've created a waveform, we can use this selection tool to select within it. And then if we right click, we've got some options to work on portion of the waveform that we've selected. So we can work that way as well. Okay, so let's just reset this patch and we'll go back into our editor. Okay, so how could we work with this? Well, what we can do is, let's say with the pen tool here, we can draw in a waveform. And then if we move to our next waveform, we could draw in something different. And this is how we can build up our different wavetables essentially. So let's now just zoom on here. Let's create something here. Let's mess with some of the phase controls here. And now we come out of here. Using the position dial, we can essentially move between these 3 different waveforms that we've created. And then if we want to edit any of them, we can click down here and we have access to edit that waveform in question. We can add extra slots here quite easily, and as we know, we can copy and paste, and then we could make a variation here, for example, and then we've got the ability to move through that new collection of waveforms. So it's really, really powerful stuff here. We can also change the order of things here. So we can move these around, should we wish to. Now something else we can do here, let's just add a new selection. We can actually use these preset formulas here. And actually in the manual, there are a few kind of formulas to get you going. So here's a random value, RND bracket X bracket. Just close that down. We get something called random value, and that's given us this result. Let's create a new one. Let's try this one. So they've given us one which is ABS bracket X. That gives us an absolute value of X. So we get some different results coming from using these formulas. And something else I should say here is that we also have presets that we can choose from here, which is obviously super useful as well. We can go through these using these buttons too. So you can hear that we can get some really interesting tonality by using this functionality. Let's come across to the mod matrix, and just to demonstrate, let's use an LFO to move through the wavetable position, put the mountain. Okay, let's add in some extra voices, and let's spread and detune these. Okay, let's add in some effects as well. In fact, let's try tuning these. Let's use a minor tuning. So you can hear that having that lovely morphing sound as we go through the wavetables just gives us so much flexibility with our sound design. Without really kind of doing anything that major, we've made quite a nice kind of evolving pad sound. Pretty nice, great sounding synth. Okay, so that's our second video on the Wavetable Editor. So remember that we have various tools up here that we can use. Selection tool for selecting within waveforms, the pen tool to actually freehand draw something in, the line tool to create straight lines. The segment tool allows us to create various different lines which can then be bent and curved, and then we have this additive tool that allows us to actually draw in partials or individual harmonics. So this allows us to kind of create waveforms down here and use a collection of these tools or whatever technique we want to be able to create a selection of waveforms that will then make up our wavetable. We can also draw in formulas within here, and there's some in the manual to kind of get you started. And we have presets for some of the kind of most traditional and a bit more experimental kind of waveforms. So that is our Wavetable Editor. In the next video, we're going to dive in and have a look at our LFOs. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.